All right, guys, welcome back to the bootleg studios of Rant Roller Sports. Once my channel grows, it won't be the bootleg studios no more. But right now, I have some shirts behind me just because it darkens the background. When I took the shirts away, my curtains in the back are beige, but it just looks like bright white with the lights on. So I hope this is a better visual to look at my mug while I'm speaking, but you won't be seeing my mug the entire time. Please, if you're coming in early, like, share, subscribe. I will be having a commercial featured soon on my channel from an artist. That's a brother of mine. That'll be coming soon. My brother Jerron. What else? Let's get right into the first topic. I'm gonna give you a little background. I've been saying, or to anyone or talking to anyone that would listen, that LeBron James is a modern version of Magic Johnson. He's a more athletic version. In his prime, he was a better defender than Magic in his prime. But by and large, LeBron James is an evolution of Magic Johnson, not Michael Jordan. Kobe Bryant was the evolution of Michael Jordan. All right, he was the second version, the second generation version of Michael Jordan. And a lot of people have been spoiled. And to some extent, LeBron James is also the evolution of Larry Bird. Now, a lot of you will question that, but never mind how they get the job done. Larry Bird and LeBron James have more in common than people realize. They were both played the small forward position. They both were considered point forwards, meaning that a lot of the offense runs through them at the small forward position. And in LeBron's case, the entire offense ran through him at the small forward position because he's usually the smartest guy on the floor. For the most part, LeBron doesn't get enough credit for his basketball IQ. Now, a lot of you jumped in my comment section and said that Larry Bird, how great his basketball IQ was and is, but LeBron doesn't get enough credit for having a superior, top-notch, top 5 or top 10 basketball IQ of all time. No matter what era, it could be the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, the 2010s, it doesn't matter. I would put LeBron's basketball IQ up against any coach, any GM, or any player. Like if they had an IQ basketball test, right, and they scored it, LeBron just might finish first. A lot of you might say, whoa, listen. All you have to do is listen to other NBA players that have played against LeBron James and with LeBron James, and they will tell you that he was far ahead, way above anybody else as far as thinking the game, knowing where everybody's supposed to be, knowing where the opposing teams plays, all their plays, where they're supposed to be. Why he's like Magic Johnson and Larry Bird is because he always involved his teammates. Larry Bird got everybody involved. When he was drawing double and triple teams, he would pass out of it to an open shot. We all know Magic Johnson, that was his MO, right? And LeBron James is the same thing. To another, I won't even say a lesser degree because injuries hampered him, but I can put Grant Hill in that category as well. Of superior point forwards, I can put Scottie Pippen in that category as well. Now, they all their games was a little different, but by and large, they were the same prototypical player, right? But LeBron James is always compared to Michael Jordan, since Michael Jordan is considered the quote-unquote GOAT, or at least he's always in the top 3 on most people's lists as the greatest basketball player of all time, greatest NBA player of all time. I'm going to go to Gilbert Arenas, and he makes a very valid case why LeBron is superior to Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. And I'm going to let Gilbert Arenas, who has a podcast called No Chill, and he does work on another show as well, I believe, and I'm going to get to him right now.
What does it feel like to customize your car insurance with Liberty Mutual so you only pay for what you need? Just like this.
I thought I signed up for the no commercials, but I guess I didn't. I have to go back, excuse me. I have to go back and revisit this. I thought I'd signed up for it already.
This thing. And then you always say,
hang on, folks.
Rules?
That's the wrong video. Here it is. Pardon me for the commercials today. I really thought I eliminated them, but I have to revisit it and make sure that they got my bank card number. But bear with me. I'm going to try to make this a visual presentation, so you're not just looking at my face the whole video. Maybe even I'll go and edit the live after and see if I can edit in some still shots of the players that I'm speaking on. But I'm not making any promises. All right. This is Gilbert Arenas breaking down in his mind why LeBron is better than Jordan, better than Kobe, and should be considered the GOAT because he played against him. He went to his house and watched how LeBron studies film and know where everybody's supposed to be at. His teammates, the opposing team knows their plays, know their coaching tendencies, and how LeBron was basically orchestrating the whole game, even with coaches in the bench signaling them when to send certain substitutions in so that he can do different things on the court. As well as we all know, LeBron is pretty much a de facto GM with any team that he's on, right? So let's get into Gilbert Arenas' explanation of why he believes LeBron James is above Michael Jordan in GOAT status.
The reason that I feel LeBron is the GOAT is because during pressure times, he still makes the actual right decision versus what us fans and the public wants him to do. And that's what separates, him from Jordan and Kobe, where if you give Jordan and Kobe those Cavs teams, they wouldn't have made the playoff. They wouldn't have made it to the championship because Jordan would have just averaged 60 and said the hell with it.
I know you Larry Bird fans are happy with that statement. I'm a Larry Bird admirer, but not a fan, so I always take my jabs.
About to break down the king, one and only, LeBron James.
LBJ.
What really made me fall in love with LeBron's play was we're in the playoffs. It was game 5, 4 minutes left. And I picked up something in what he did. It kind of changed the series. He was playing decoy. And, we thinking our game plan is shutting him down. And then he looks over at the bench and then gives them the nod. And the nod ended up subbing Ilgauskas out. We subbed out Brendan Haywood. And when Brendan Haywood subbed out, LeBron James attacked that basket.
Once again, James on a post-up, up fake.
But why I fall in love with it is he decoyed to give everybody else a chance to get involved into the game before he took over. And I just thought that was just like special. Because as soon as I got on the court, I didn't care who was on the court. I'm checking.
Arenas from way downtown.
He wasn't lying about that.
Trying to be aggressive. Knowing that he needed these players throughout this game, he let them eat during
fair use, by the way, Gilbert.
While he took a back.
Love your content.
He took the whole summer to understand what he was doing and realize that was brilliant. To decoy yourself, to get everybody involved, get everyone plays, then you take over, then decoy again, to decoy. Then I realized we never actually guarded this guy. When he wasn't scoring, it was him decoying. He could have scored 70 against us. He could score 70 against everybody else. So what ends up happening is when you actually think you're guarding LeBron, you're actually not guarding LeBron. He's just in decoy mode. letting everybody else get a feel for the game. And that's when I was like, okay, I like this guy. From, year 17, 18 to year 1, what set LeBron apart was, his IQ, was his ability to adapt, ability to read. That's what we didn't understand when we was first matching up in the playoffs against him, how smart he really was. So there were times where we're leaving a certain guy open, knowing that no one in their right mind will pass it to him, which he would. Good defense. Almost inside the way.
Guys, I want to make a statement for a couple of reasons, because my hand gets tired of holding that phone up to the camera. But other than that, I want to make the statement of quote-unquote African-American or black athletes don't usually get credit for their IQ. They're usually described as athletes, born athletes, freaks of nature, beast. They use these words, animals. And all of that is to take away, to me, from their IQ, from their actually film study and knowing tendencies of the opposing teams that they're playing against, and their ability to be cerebral as well. Usually that kind of rhetoric and that type of dialogue and that type of narrative is reserved for quote-unquote white players. And so many guys have gone on social media, gone on ESPN, and raved about how smart LeBron was. Now, in all LeBron's highlights, you're going to see the quote-unquote animal. You're going to see the dunks. You're going to see the highlight plays. But usually what they don't highlight on those shows is what he does in between all of that, in between the high-flying dunks and the chase-down blocks. They don't highlight his intelligence, his playmaking, and his ability to orchestrate the entire game, offensively and defensively, with his mind. I'm going to let Gilbert continue.
His film breakdown where I'm watching him at home, I understood he understood the game very well, but I didn't understand and didn't realize then he's willing to sacrifice his name, his integrity of, being bashed to make the right play.
Right back in the hands of LeBron James. Here's your shot. Get out of his hands. Hughes. Damon Jones puts it in with 4.8 remaining.
Damon Jones didn't play Game 5, nor Game 6 comes in for the last, 20 seconds of the game. We're going to leave Damon. He's not going to pass to Damon Jones. Damon Jones hasn't shot the ball in 2 games, and he actually makes that pass, which shows that he believes in his teammates, which gives them the sense that we believe in ourselves too. Jordan would have just averaged 60 and said the hell with it. He wouldn't have still gave the ball to J.R. Smith after J.R. Smith done did what J.R. Smith has done. But because he still believes in his teammates, they still believe in themselves too.
I do want to say this. I want to counter what Gilbert Arenas is saying is he was speaking about a Michael Jordan pre-Phil Jackson becoming head coach of the Bulls. Because after Phil Jackson brought in Tex Winter and another coach, I believe his name was Clemens, who was the defense wizard, Tex Winter was the offensive wizard who was the originator of the triangle offense. Once Phil Jackson brought in the triangle offense, Michael Jordan was a much more willing passer. It's not like Michael Jordan didn't pass the ball. He averaged 6 assists for his career. So that's why I would counter Gilbert's point there. Yes, pre-Phil Jackson, Jordan would have said the hell with it and taken all the shots himself. After Phil Jackson, he learned the concept of the team game, and he learned how to trust his teammates. But LeBron James came into the league with that as a rookie.
It makes LeBron the GOAT. I think that we were spoiled by Jordan.
Open. Chicago with the lead.
The grace he brought to the game, his fierceness, the way he ended games. And when Kobe came, we seen Jordan like. So what ends up happening is when you have a player like LeBron who comes into the game,
I'll get to you, Leo. Thanks for checking in. Just give me a couple minutes.
They're going to take that last shot no matter
Appreciate
what. We feel that if you're the best player, you're the star. You're compared to Jordan and Kobe, you should be Jordan and Kobe like, which is not necessarily correct. Jordan and Kobe possessed something LeBron didn't have, which was a first step, which made them one-on-one players. LeBron came in as Magic Johnson, meaning his vision is his key. As someone who loved Michael Jordan and Kobe, we get mad and we want to knock him because he's using his vision when we allow them to use their one-on-one skill to finish plays. It's unfair to say you can use your one-on-one skills, but you can't use your gift. You can't use your vision. You can't see the open man. You're supposed to shot up, and if it goes in, we're going to cheer you on. If you miss it, we're going to say, he don't have it. No, this is what makes him great. The ability to see the open guy if he's not the open guy. Just like Jordan made himself the open guy. But we didn't knock him when he passed it to Steve Kerr. He didn't pass it to him knowing he was going to make the shot. He passed it to him hoping he would make that
To the screen. James goes the other way. Drives down the lane. Back out to Green. Green for three. Off the mark.
Got lingering odors? Grab.
Hang on a sec. Hold on, folks.
Press firmly to activate.
My apologies.
Continuously
I believe I had these commercials taken off earlier before I started this live, but I have to go back and revisit it. But this will give me a chance to address Leo really quickly before I let Gilbert continue. Leo DeRosa says, what's up, Leo? Jordan was more clutch than LBJ, than LeBron James. Well, let's talk about it. If you actually look in the history of game-winning shots, LeBron has more game-winning shots than anybody in NBA history. That's a fact. You can actually look that up. So this idea that LeBron James is not clutch is very media-driven. And a lot of us who watch these sports shows, if something is reiterated over and over and over and over, you actually start to believe it. But let's talk about what clutch is. Do the first 3 quarters not matter of a game? Do the first 3 quarters and 8 minutes into the fourth quarter not matter? If he's putting in work all game long, and just so happens that in the fourth quarter, when everybody knows who should be getting the ball, which is LeBron, and he decides to either pass it to an open teammate without taking the shot every time, like Jordan and Kobe, because they were gunners. That was their job. They were scorers. They were not like Magic Johnson and Grant Hill. I'll even throw in Larry Bird, where they were more facilitators. LeBron James, as great as he is, great as a scorer as he is, he's averaged 27 points a game for his career. Okay. People have this narrative that LeBron wasn't clutch. Now, I'm not saying that LeBron wasn't clutch at all. Leo was saying Jordan was more clutch than LeBron. It appears that way because Jordan hit those shots against Utah to end to close out those series back-to-back years. So it would appear that way. But when you actually go look at the numbers, Jordan was not more clutch than LeBron. He just had the aura of fear, the same way that Larry Bird projected an aura and projected fear on the opponent with the ball in his hands. LeBron didn't quite project that fear, right? Because LeBron is more happy-go-lucky. He has a different personality. Plus, it was a different time in the 80s. In the 80s and early 90s, teams were going to war. You know what I'm saying? There was less skill. Yeah, as much as y'all don't want to admit it, it was less skill in the 80s per man down the roster, 1 through 15, and in the 90s and early 2000s than it is right now. The rosters per man are more skilled than those eras. And the 80s is my era. But you tell me what player from the 80s can do what Steph Curry's doing right now. You understand what I'm saying? What player from the 80s can do what somebody like Kevin Durant or James Harden? How hard would they have been to guard then? Now, I know a lot of you, I say, well, the rule changes. You can't hand check. You can't shove guys in the back. And that's very true. But I want you to understand the pace of the game, the skill of the game today is far superior than the 50s, 60s, and 70s. It just is. The guys today have figured out that if you got 5 guys that can shoot, you can spread the defense out and send them scrambling all over the place. It's not like before where you would chuck it down into the big man, right? Either you would double team him to get the ball out of his hands and he kicks the ball back out and round it goes, right? Today, the offense is not played like that. There's a lot more back screens, a lot more guys cutting without the basketball, a lot more movement. Now, I know a lot of you guys are going to say, oh, there was movement in the 80s, there was movement in the 70s. Well, why don't the scores reflect that? Once you got to past the 80s and you got into the 90s specifically, those scores started going down. And then even to the mid-90s to late 90s, where those finals games that the Bulls were playing, they were scoring 80-something points a game. If you score 80-something points a game today, you're losing. You're getting blown out. I don't care what nobody say. That Golden State Warrior dynasty would have blew that 96 Bulls team out. A lot of old school guys don't want to admit that. They want to say, the game was way more physical. The guys were way more stronger back then. They were real men, yada, yada, yada. Okay. You put that Golden State Warrior team, especially with KD, up against that 96 Bulls team, 97, 98, they wouldn't have been able to score enough points to beat that Warrior team. They just wouldn't have. I don't care what the rules were. You think hand checking would bother somebody like Kevin Durant that much? You think hand checking would bother somebody like Steph Curry, who you have to pick up from half court? Legitimately, you had to pick Steph Curry up, somebody like Damian Lillard up, somebody like James Harden, all of these guys, Kevin Durant that can shoot from half court. The game has just changed. The game has changed. It's evolved, especially offensively. The offense has evolved and surpassed defensive principles. The only time the game slows down in the NBA now is in the playoffs when there's a lot of injuries going on. The pressure is at its height, and guys are banged up and tired from the regular season. I'm going to give you an example of that is James Harden. Why his production seems to go down in the playoffs because he's playing 40 minutes a game. He's going to the foul line, I would say 7 or 8 times a game. And by the time he gets to the playoffs, he's worn down from all that scoring and all that stuff. Now James Harden scoring 35, 45 points a game and dishing out 8 to 11 to 12 assists and getting 6 to 7, 8 rebounds a game. Come on, people. The skill level has changed. And even I'm biased toward the 80s, but listen, even my Laker team from the 80s, we had about 3 guys on the team that could shoot 3-pointers legitimately. Right? That was Michael Cooper, maybe Byron Scott. Magic was a legitimate knockdown 3-point shooter during most of his career. He became that later. But it might have been one other guy on the team that I have no idea who they are that can shoot. And that was most teams. Back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, you only had 2 to 3 guys that can shoot from distance. Now, in today's game, guess what? Your whole roster can shoot. The whole roster can shoot. Guys like Anthony Mason, Dennis Rodman, Charles Oakley, Otis Thorpe. I could go on and on. Rick Mahorn. I could go on and on. These guys would not have a job in the NBA today, more than likely. And if they did, they'd be coming off the bench. Why? Because you can't have a guy in there that's only going to give you 5 to 10 points, and he's playing 35 minutes a game, 30 to 40 minutes a game, and he's only giving you 5 to 10 points. That does not fly today. It doesn't. That's why I would say that 96 Bulls team, that 96 to 98, if you compare that dynasty to the Golden State Warrior dynasty, they would get blown off the floor. You're only getting 5 to 10 points. Sometimes Dennis Rodman didn't even score a single point. He grabbed all them rebounds because the shooting percentages were down. Let's just keep it real. There was a lot of bricks being laid in the mid to late 90s and early 2000s. A lot of bricks. So yeah, if your only goal is to go up and battle for rebounds, and at the other end of the court, you're just a passer out of the high post, that wouldn't fly today. Draymond Green is the modern equivalent to what Dennis Rodman is, size-wise, and the position they play. The difference is Draymond Green is way more skilled than Rodman. He's a better passer. He's a better shooter. Okay, Draymond is not the rebounder Dennis Rodman was, but Draymond has more responsibilities. He's actually the point forward of Golden State Warriors, where Dennis Rodman's all his responsibility was hustle, defense, and rebounding. Okay, pardon me 1 second, folks. The wife is out there, so she might be texting me. She was texting me earlier. Okay. All right, got to her. All right, let's let Gilbert continue. I finished running my mouth. Leo, I wasn't throwing no disrespect to your comment. I'm just saying that where Leo DeRosa commented, Jordan was more clutch than LBJ. I believe that's very media driven. That's a very media driven narrative. I mean, the man has won 4 championships and 4 finals MVPs. So if he's not clutch, how did he win 4 finals MVPs and 4 championships? But let's let Gilbert continue, all right? Oh, come on, yo. I'm going to revisit this commercial thing tonight with YouTube after I get done.
He passed it to him knowing he was going to make the shot. He passed it to it hoping he would make that
Screen. James goes the other way. Drives down the lane. Back out to Green. Green for 3. Off the mark. No good.
So you have Morris and Hope running off of AD for decoy, and then Anthony Davis a down screen for LeBron coming up for the ball. Now you have LeBron and Jimmy Butler's guarding. I'm pretty sure Danny Green was supposed to actually set a pick so Duncan Robinson can switch on him. So LeBron James has to react. Now, pause right now. Now, this is very important to viewers at home. I'm laughing because it's just a horrible look at this point. You have a corner shooter in Twin who has his hands on his knees. I don't know if he's tired. I don't know if he's I don't know what he's doing, but he's not actually ready to shoot. So when people at home are judging LeBron off of his decision, you have to look at it all as it plays out. You have the Twin, hands on his knees, not ready to shoot.
Sorry about the blurry video being blurry in and out. That's his camera that I have. I have to get a better one.
He actually
bear with me, folks.
Ball kind of throws off LeBron's shot attempt. Now, I'm pretty sure if you're a LeBron's fan, you've actually never seen LeBron go right and actually do a running. He's never done a floater. He's never really been a floating type of guy. So what ends up happening is the dig by Crowder kind of throws off of his rhythm. So if he would have actually took this shot, I'm pretty sure it would have been 12%, which the actual play now is back to Danny Green. So me saying that, I wouldn't have passed it. I wouldn't have, but I wouldn't have put myself in this situation in the first place. So for us to actually say what LeBron did is a bad decision, I would have took it. If you pause it right here and look at the pass he made, if Danny Green makes this shot, LeBron made the best decision that he could ever have made, which is the only decision he was supposed to make. He's watching film on top of film on top of film. What most people do in the playoffs, he does every single game. So he knows the ins and outs of all your plays, where you're supposed to be, where you don't supposed to be. When you try to trick him by calling a play, he's going to pick up on it and say, that's not one of their plays, and tell you where you're supposed to be. I understood that when I was at his house watching him watch our play. And because I'm a gray area player, I knew, he's going to know every single play is supposed to be. So therefore, for us to, have a one-up on him, we have to go off script sometimes. If you don't understand the game and film and breakdown, you're going to go into the game behind in LeBron's mind.
James on the drive.
So that was Gilbert Arenas making his case for LeBron being the GOAT over Michael Jordan. Basically saying that LeBron James made everybody around him better. He thought the game better than everybody else, especially during his era. LeBron James is the greatest mind of his era. Now, I'm not saying Kobe Bryant wasn't an intellectual. Lee K. I don't know what that means, Joshua. Joshua Glean on the check-in once again. But that's that topic. Do I agree that LeBron is better than Michael Jordan? Well, let's just look at this. Let's compare finals, right? How many finals has Jordan been to? 6. Of course, he hasn't lost in the finals, and with 6 finals MVPs, I believe. But LeBron has been to like 11 finals. He's been to almost double the amount of finals that Michael Jordan has been in. What does that mean? He's consistently bringing his team to the mountaintop. Now, listen, if I bring you to the mountaintop 11 times, I can't do it by myself. You know, he needs help from other guys. Michael Jordan didn't overcome those monsters in the East, Detroit Pistons, the Boston Celtics, the 76ers, who else in the East? Atlanta Hawks with Dominique. He didn't overcome those guys until Scottie Pippen and Horace Grant matured. And then they brought in some knockdown shooters, like B.J. Armstrong and Craig Hodges. People forget about Craig Hodges. He's one of the greatest three-point shooters of that era. Won three-point shootouts before he was blackballed by the NBA for speaking out politically. People forget Michael Jordan didn't go nowhere until Scottie Pippen matured into an all-star and Horace Grant matured into a solid, I'm not even going to say role player. He was a borderline all-star because of his defensive prowess, and he was a better scorer than Rodman. All right? So that's that topic, right, folks? Let's not bore you to death with that. That's the Michael Jordan versus LeBron comparison by way of Gilbert Arenas. LeBron, second greatest player of all time, Jordan first. Okay, well, that's a popular narrative, and I'm not going to knock you for saying that, Joshua. But when people say these things, I want you to go in the comment section and really make your case. Because sometimes guys are just lazy in the comments. I don't mean here. I mean, of course, after the video's over, whatever, where you can put in paragraphs of statements. But a lot of people are lazy in my comment section and won't explain why they feel a certain way. They'll just say, Larry Bird is the GOAT. And that's it. They don't make any type of argument for why he's the GOAT. All right, so I respect it. I respect you guys' opinion, but I want you to actually back it up with why you feel that way. Why, in Joshua Glean's case, do you think Jordan is better than LeBron? We just watched Gilbert Arenas' explanation of why he felt LeBron was better. He played against him, right? He had to study the guy. They were in the same conference. And I don't know if they were in the same division, but I believe he played against the Wizards 4 times a year, something like that. I could be mistaken, right? But I respect your opinion, Joshua. That would be the opinion of a majority of people that Jordan is better than LeBron. But I will say this. Jordan didn't learn how to win until Phil Jackson walked in the door. And Scottie Pippen matured into an all-star, into one of the greatest ever. People forget that. They just think, he was Robin to Jordan's Batman. He was a little better than a Robin, all right? First team all-defense, one of the premier point forwards to ever play the game. He was basically the point guard of the Bulls team. He was the buffer between Michael Jordan barking on teammates because, Jordan didn't have no chill with his mouth. If he passed you the ball and you fumbled it out of bounds, he would cuss you out and tell you he ain't going to give you the ball again for the whole half. He might not even give you the ball again to the next game. LeBron was like Pippen and Jordan combined. He made everybody feel better about themselves. He got everybody involved in the offense and didn't try to shine and take all the shine every game. He passed the ball to wide open guys for them to finish and get the glory. Sometimes they did, sometimes they didn't make the shot. But he always, I'm speaking of LeBron James, made the right basketball play, the way you coach it, right? And LeBron has came into the league as a 18-year-old rookie that way. So much so that his coach at the time, Paul Silas, had LeBron play point guard his entire rookie year. Imagine that. An athletic small forward switching over to point guard, being drafted into the NBA as a rookie as an 18-year-old. That's unheard of. And LeBron has had a longer peak and a longer stint of all-star MVP production than Jordan. Now, I understand Jordan flamed out because of all the attention, all the success. He really got tired of dealing with fans. If you watch that documentary, The Last Dance, he was tired of the fame. It had got to him. You know, the suspicious way that his father was killed. You know, the constant media scrutiny, him having to be this politically correct figure all the time. All of that started to wear on Jordan, right? What's not being said is how the black community used to get on Jordan's case about not speaking out about more political issues. They also used to get on Jordan's case about having these high-priced sneakers that he was selling into the hood, right? Or high-priced athletic shoes. You know, people were getting shot and dying over those Jordans, you know, once upon a time in these ghettos. So Michael Jordan was tired of all of that. And I think mentally he was just exhausted, and it didn't help that the Bulls management wanted Phil Jackson out the door. And they really broke that team up because once Phil left, Michael Jordan didn't want no more part of the Bulls. And I can't really blame him because Phil Jackson taught him how to win. Not that Michael wasn't a winner, but Phil Jackson taught him how to win at the highest level, championship level. So let's go to our next topic, right? Delusional NBA Legends. And in this segment, I'm going to feature Gilbert Arenas once again because he has great topics. He has great basketball topics. He's very knowledgeable, very intellectual, very intelligent. And Gilbert Arenas played the NBA game at the highest level. He was Steph Curry before Steph Curry. He was Damian Lillard before Damian Lillard. All right? He was coming down shooting the ball from 30 feet on a regular basis, 30, 35 feet, even half court sometimes. Gilbert Arenas was one of the greatest scorers at the point guard position ever in the history of the game. So let's listen to Gilbert Arenas. And he's joined by one of the best scorers in the modern era, Lou Williams. Or as Skip Bayless affectionately calls him in Shannon Sharp, Lemon Pepper Lou. Let's get through these ads. I thought I cut them off earlier, folks. Bear with me. Hang on a second, folks. I'm going to give you the visual.
Starting to hate everyone in the 90s that played basketball, that whole group, because they just think they shit don't stink. Right. Like, you got, Scottie Pippen and Dennis Rodman, both 6'7", both weigh 210. Talking about they're going to stop somebody in today's game. Like, nah. 6'7", 210, like, you are a little guard in today's game. You guys are little guys. Like,
every 10 years the game changes.
They have no idea about evolution. It's like they don't take evolution.
was like, bro, can you imagine dropping LeBron in the 75? Like, just drop LeBron now, in 75. I was like, bro.
It's like they forget.
I agree.
So
He would destroy him
this game solved
in the 70s. Destroyed him.
I think it's more skill.
You have to understand rules, right? So if a player can get you in foul trouble because you're always out of place, that's a skill. And I said, it's not a flop, it's a skill. If I know I'm going to drive here, and I know your speed is going to try to beat me there, and I stop, you hit me, and I shoot, that is my skill. That's what I'm skilled at. And I don't think anybody really appreciates the skill. They call it, oh, he's flopping too much. Oh, this is ball. Like, no, that's...
You know what their reaction is? They don't know how you do that because they can't think like you think.
They didn't have to. They didn't have to. I mean, first, in the 90s, they were averaging like 80, 90 points a game. Mm-hmm. Like, we're doing 135s and 140s now, and that's because of the skill level. So they didn't have to figure out how to get to the free throw line. It was like whenever we scored. I think it was more of a stops game in the 90s anyway.
It was a big man game. Everyone wanted to post. Everyone, you had post-up guards. You got to remember, guards back then weren't scorers.
Except for Jordan.
Like Mark Price, John Stockton, Steve Nash,
Gary Payton,
Mo Cheek,
still considered a point guard.
They weren't scorers.
Then, as soon as AI comes in, it's like,
well, you know what's funny?
We're going to the two. We don't know what that is yet.
Right.
You're talking about, Marbury averaging, 22 and 9. He was considered a ball hog. They're like 9 assists. He was a ball hog. The C.V. Francis, like that's what I said. So when I came in, I was a combo guard. I wasn't either. It's just get out there and we're gonna see what he can do, and then from there it just starts opening up. So it's like everybody became skillful. It wasn't just the shooting guard and the center. So it's like, back then your power forward was anywhere from 6'4" to 6'8". So these guys talking about, I'm gonna stop you, like that nobody even plays that.
Gilbert exaggerates sometime. I'm gonna stop the video there for a second. Fair use, Gilbert. Love your material. They were not fucking 6'4" power forwards in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. No. The power forwards are anywhere between 6'7" and 6'10", or even 6'11", but they were not 6'4". He's referring really to Charles Barkley and Larry Johnson, who people claim they were only 6'4", even though they were listed at 6'7". I watched Charles Barkley stand right next to Michael Jordan. Then if Charles Barkley's 6'4", then so is Michael Jordan. Nobody calls Michael Jordan and say he's 6'4". Charles Barkley was 6'6". Larry Johnson was also 6'6", right? And then guys like Wes Unseld was 6'6", right? Anthony Mason was about 6'7". But guys like Charles Oakley was 6'8", 6'9". Bill Laimbeer was like 6'10", 6'11". Mahorn, same thing, 6'8", 6'9". Otis Thorpe, 6'9". I could go on and on. Those guys were not 6'4", 6'5" playing power forward. Okay, not even in the 70s. You had a couple of exemptions, but that's about it. So Gilbert is slightly exaggerating there, guys. Don't think that I just favor a guy speaking and agree with everything he says. I'm still an individual. I'm still rant roller. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to have my own opinion, even if I agree with most of the stuff he says. So let's get back to him.
What was the expression back then? Defense wins championships.
Defense wins championships. Like, you were stopping kid. Like, Anthony Mason, what are you going to do? Really, what are you going to, like, 6'6"? Like,
Mason was skilled, but just didn't have a long-range jump shot. This is where Gilbert was exaggerating.
Got removed because of that. All these centers in college coming in, centers in high school, KG, Van Horn, I'm not with him.
Right.
I'm going to go to the 4-man, go against the guy who's 6'4". And then the 4-man became this long guy, and it took away the center. So I said every position became skillful. So, like when the 90s talking about, oh, yeah, y'all soft, we would have put you on your ass.
Yeah.
You're a little kid. Like, when we get older, these 60, 70 years old, 185 pounds still. Like, come on, shut up. What are you saying? I was afraid of my rookie year. I don't know why. Like, you're little, like John Stockton. You're little. Like you guys are defensive guys. It became a joke. Like it's like put the new guard on me, man. These little, these point guards are too little, and that's what people don't understand. Like evolution, like no, like these guys are just too little. Like you're not gonna hurt us.
But you know what? We're gonna do the same shit in 20 years.
20 years. That's what happens. Somebody asked me, like, yo, man, like, how would you do in this era? I said, to be honest.
This bloody camera. Sorry, people. How is going on? Why this goddamn camera doesn't always show a clear picture?
I was not trying to play defense in my era. Let alone trying to come in this area. Like imagine trying to guard James Harden every play. Oh, man, I'll be mad. Like I would have hated to guard James Harden.
You're like Iverson. Oh yeah, who you had to guard, but guys,
but it was just
there's like Kobe. You didn't have to guard, but those guys that were tough covers back then.
But those are offensive covers.
But those are also all-time hard to guard players.
But offensive, like running around.
But it's different because every once in a while, Kobe had to come down and throw that bitch to Shaq and chill for a second.
So Shaq.
James had to throw it to nobody.
Think about it. Like every play, he's gonna come down and he is literally doing a bop move.
Why the old heads act like they wasn't cool like how we cool now? Like they don't want you. Like they too friendly. They working out like bullshit. All right, they work out together. Y'all gamble together. What's the difference?
I think it's because they're on TV now. Like when Charles.
At American Airlines, we're flying again.
Apologize, folks. Just 1 second. For my next live, this shouldn't be happening, all right, guys? I know it's the bootleg studios, but not this bootleggers.
Ever. I just want to open the rule book. That's why they don't want me on TV. I'm gonna open up the rule book. Like, hey, look, this you. They put this rule in because you took the ball at the 3-point line in the corner and you bounced that 42 times trying to back him up. So they put a 5 count rule because of you. Yeah. You dribbled the ball too goddamn much. So they put a rule in because of you. So don't talk about nothing about dribble. I don't want to hear you say dribble. And they dribble too much in the league because you were the reason that they changed rule like that. But they forget.
Real shit.
Like I remember I went at Kareem Abdul-Jabbar on my Instagram because he was talking about the Ball brothers. But as I said,
less rules back then in that.
They forget what they did. It's like who you are now is not what you did back then. Goddamn it.
You know what happens is you look at the game differently when you're not playing.
Not again. Now all the guards switch like they gonna do it.
When you're in it, yeah, you're just focused on what it is now. I think when guys retire, it's turned down enough.
No, it's just you're delusional. You're delusional. As I said, it's delusional. That's these 90s players is delusional.
They remember it a certain way.
Oh, as these kids get younger, man, they got the Google shit, right?
Uh-huh.
So you'll pull up a coach. Nowadays, we'll pull up a coach like,
yeah,
nah, no.
Could he really play?
No, because a lot of them couldn't play. You know, it was one. I ain't gonna say his name, but we pulled this shit up on the plane. We like, bro, shut the fuck up. Bro. Like, you average 2 points a game, but he put that shit on his because he was the asshole coach. He got something slick to say. Mm-hmm. Come up in front of the plane, like, why are you up here with us, man? Mm-hmm. So we pulled this shit up. He was mad for like a month about that.
It wasn't misunderstood. It was just like, you ever talk to somebody? It's like the 90s was like the best thing, like Michael Jackson, Prince, like the music was better. Like anything wasn't better in the 90s. Like we played defense. No, y'all didn't. You just had because y'all couldn't stop.
The shit out of it. Yeah.
That's all you did. You had because you couldn't stop. You couldn't stop Jordan, so you just clotheslined the. That's all you did. That ain't defense, bro. That ain't defense. Like you can get that shit at the beach. You can get that shit at the beach. The mailman does that. He can't stop none of these out there, so he just tripping and clipping all they talk about. Yeah, this 90s basketball.
I agree. I beat the hell out of my sons on the basketball court after they got older, and I really couldn't stay in front of them anymore. I was clotheslining them WWE style.
Just respect the way things are now. Be happy that they are the way they are.
The only reason there's a battle is because they're not respecting.
Yeah.
Like, it's like you're not.
You
like,
think they got something to do with the money, though?
Yeah, it's always.
Big time.
It's always the money, because it's like, oh, yeah, we laid our foundation. Cool. Hey, bro, I appreciate it.
Right.
Like, I came out the vagina at a time where it paid me more. Don't get mad at me. I didn't do nothing. I watched you. I learned. Mm-hmm. I added my little shit. I got paid. Now, these doing the same thing. I made 111. That was good then. I make 220 now. It's double.
Also, shit is more expensive nowadays. Houses are more expensive here in LA. You gotta get paid better.
Hey, it's a more popular game. It's a more popular game year after year.
So anyway, folks, that was pretty much that topic. Delusional NBA legends, or as Gilbert would say, delusional old heads. I agree with some of the stuff he said. The majority of it, I agree with. I disagree with some of it. John Stockton was small, but he was vicious. There's a reason he's the all-time leader in steals. So to say that he could have, had his way with a young John Stockton, a 26-year-old, 27-year-old John Stockton, no. Okay, it's the same thing with KJ, Kevin Johnson from the Phoenix Suns, Mark Price, who else? It was certain guys, that he's talking about, that he's saying they're small, but Isaiah Thomas from the Detroit Pistons would have gave him the business. Joshua Green says basketball is more skilled scoring than back defense. Well, I guess you're saying back then defense was better. Well, he just explained that guys back then were playing bully ball, street ball. They were playing YMCA weekend ball in the league with guys who they couldn't guard. That's what he's saying. That's why the Detroit Pistons even came up with the Jordan rules. Every time he drove to the basket, their goal was to knock his ass to the floor and intimidate him because they couldn't stay in front of him. All right. Defensively, I'm not going to say the defense was better. Like I just explained this earlier. It's easier to play defense when you only got 3 guys on the court out of 5 that can shoot, especially from distance. That means your defense can pack in the paint a little bit more, even when they was playing, quote-unquote, man-to-man in the NBA. Remember, there was no zone allowed. That was the difference between the NBA and college, and now zone is allowed. Before, if you played zone in the NBA, it was called illegal defense. So you had to be up on your man, but the difference is all these guys couldn't shoot like today. The first guy from the point guard to the center can spot up for that corner 3 or the 3 at the top of the 3-point line. That just was not a reality. There were only a few bigs in the 80s that could shoot that way, and early 90s. Tom Chambers, Bill Laimbeer, Clifford Robinson, Rasheed Wallace, a couple of guys like that come to mind that were big guys that could shoot the 3-ball. But even then, coaches frowned upon it and didn't let them cut loose. The Pistons would have been way more effective if Bill Laimbeer was shooting 6 to 7 threes a game instead of the 1 or 2 that he attempted. Same thing with Kevin McHale. Kevin McHale would have scored way more points if he had been allowed to shoot 6 or 7 threes. The same thing with Larry Bird. Larry Bird was only shooting 1 to 3 threes a game. If Larry Bird had a green light and was able to come down and shoot 6, 7, 8 threes, that would have really sprung the defense out, because Robert Parrish was a legitimate 18-foot knockdown mid-range jump shooter. And if Robert Parrish were playing today, he probably would have extended his jump shot out to the 3-point line, because he had a sweet jump shot, Robert Parrish, for a center. I know. I watched him kill my Lakers many a night. Larry Bird wasn't the only one killing my Lakers. They used to take turns. Robert Parrish, Kevin McHale and Larry Bird used to take turns killing my Lakers. But anyway, I respect your comment, Joshua. Thank you for checking in. Once again, Joshua says basketball is more skilled, scoring, and defense was better back then. I believe that's what you're saying. Let's go to my next topic, folks. My next topic is, and we're speaking about small players, is little men, big game. Allen Iverson and all the great small players in the game. And once again, I'm going to go to a video where they were speaking about Allen Iverson and how difficult he was to play against. Even though Allen Iverson was listed at 6 foot, 165 pounds, they said he was closer to 5'10", 155 pounds. He just had long arms and he just was explosive. So he could get up and throw down alley-oops and dunk no problem because he had a 40-inch vertical and long arms and bigger hands for his size. He had large hands for his 5'11" frame, which I believe he was closer to 5'11" because I saw him standing next to Kevin Johnson, KJ from the Phoenix Suns, and Kevin Johnson was listed at 6'1", and AI was definitely shorter, maybe even by 2 inches than Kevin Johnson, standing side by side. And this is a retired Kevin Johnson, and you know as you get a little older, you tend to shrink in size. Just bear with me, folks. Let me find the right video, right, of which inspired me to have this small men, big game conversation. And while I'm at it, while I'm looking for this video, I'm going to read out some of the guys I wrote down that qualified for this conversation. John Stockton, Mark Price, Bob Cousy, Tony Parker, Isaiah Thomas from the Detroit Pistons, Isaiah Thomas of modern times, who was notably known for leading league in scoring with the Boston Celtics at being like 5'9". Kemba Walker, who's now currently on the New York Knicks and was a lottery pick of Michael Jordan's down in Charlotte. Tim Hardaway, not to be confused with Tim Hardaway Jr., the 6'6" shooting guard for the Dallas Mavericks. Tim Hardaway was an original member of the Golden State Warriors Run TMC of Tim Hardaway, Chris Mullin, and Mitch Richmond, and later had great battles with the Knicks as a part of the Miami Heat with Alonzo Mourning, Muggsy Bogues, Stephon Marbury, who else I got here? Steph Curry. And basically on my list was everybody 6'2" and smaller. All right, Steph Curry, John Morant. Of course, I mentioned Kevin Johnson already from the Phoenix Suns teams, one of my favorite teams to watch in the late 80s and early 90s. We got Calvin Murphy, who I believe was 5'9", played for the Houston Rockets. Donovan Mitchell of the modern era plays with the Utah Jazz. Now, the way Donovan Mitchell plays, I thought he was at least 6'4", but he's only listed as 6'1", and he has games where it looks like he's 6'5". Incredible, Donovan Mitchell. The great Spud Webb, who won the slam dunk contest at 5 foot. How tall was he when he won that slam? 5'7", I believe Spud Webb was, doing incredible dunks. Incredible dunks at that size. You have the great Mo Cheeks from the Philadelphia 76ers. Joshua Glean says, today them young boys will shoot your eyes out from the three-point line. Absolutely. Listen, up until recent times, because I stopped playing basketball on concrete about 2 years ago, because just my back and my knees and ankles couldn't handle pounding the pavement. Because, you know, when you start playing with them young boys, you ain't just running one game, full court. You're running back. Whoever the losing team is wants to run it back, And before you know it, you end up playing 3-4 full court games with them young boys, and you going home, you need to get in a bath with icy hot and goddamn Epsom salt. You got to take painkillers and all kind of stuff just to get up and go to work the next day if you got somewhere to go. Right? Because them young boys got that rubber band action, boy, that, they bounce back. But my two sons, after they got to be about 15, 16, it was hard for me to stay in front of them. Well, it was hard for me to stay in front of my oldest son because his game was more like D-Wade. He would drive the ball, had a mid-range shot, and he could shoot the 3 too. But his thing was he'll dribble the ball and drive right around you and score. He had the floater game, my oldest son. He had the floater game. My younger son was the step back kid. And my youngest son was the ball hawk. And that's why whenever the two of them was the chucker, whenever the two of them played on the same team, I'm talking about my two sons, all they did was argue. It was hilarious. They hardly ever won games where they were both on the same team because my oldest son was always yelling at my youngest son to pass the ball. Once my youngest son got the ball, especially behind the 3-point line, don't expect the pass because my son was shooting it. He would rock back and forth, crossover dribble, and then do that little step back move and launch that 3 all game long. And he would never pass the goddamn ball. And my youngest son would miss a lot of those shots, but then he would get hot and start making them. And don't let him get hot because he ain't never passing the ball then. He's taking every damn shot. My youngest son is a fearless shooter. He don't care if he misses 25 in a row. He get the ball the 26th time, step back, and he's launching it, right? My youngest son, Justin, my oldest son, Amari, he had a more team-oriented game where he would at times revert to a point guard, get everybody involved. Then at other times he would just look to score the ball, but his game was more balanced. And also my oldest son played defense. My youngest son didn't play defense, I'm talking about Justin, until he got mad. If you pissed him off, then now he would push up on you and look to play defense. But other than that, all my youngest son wanted to do was get the ball behind the 3-point line, or maybe even from the post, the high post. He would do a little move from the high post, but the 3-pointer was his shot. So that was my little spiel from Joshua Glean, telling me them young boys would shoot your eyes out from the 3-point line. Oh yeah, if you don't believe it, go out to the court with these young boys, man. And they are shooting the lights out. Some of them are shooting from half court. They're getting started early. I don't see the trend changing back to big men just coming down the court in the half court, lobbing the ball into the big man and dribbling like Gilbert Arenas said, backing down like Charles Barkley did, backing down back. That day is over. So let me continue my list. I left off at Spud Webb. I got Tiny Archibald here, Mo Cheeks, Chris Paul, Nate Robinson of recent fame being knocked out by Jake Paul. Oh, Lord of mercy. Yeah. So that's my little list of the short NBA players that have dominated the game in their own way. They was small men with big games. All right, and let me find a video that sparked me to have this conversation about the little guys. And of course, guys of the modern era are always going to refer back to the great Allen Iverson. Now, people like Skip Bayless have kicked dirt on Allen Iverson's name. Oh, he was a selfish gunner. All you had to do was look at them Philadelphia teams that he played with. Eric Snow, Aaron McKee, who's the power forward there? Theo Ratliff, Todd McCullough, Raja Bell, all of these guys that couldn't score a lick except for Aaron McKee. He was the second leading scorer on that finals team that went to the Lakers against the Lakers in the finals. I mean, if you got guys that can't shoot, can't score, what do you want a guy who is talented as Allen Iverson to do? Keep passing to guys who can't score? Here, Gilbert Arenas, this is only a 3-minute video, folks. Gilbert Arenas is going to speak on how difficult it was to guard Allen Iverson. Let me get through this commercial here, and I'll bring this up for you guys. Take a sip of this homemade iced tea. Keep my battery charged.
Who's like the hardest player that like? I'm gonna start with the easy one. Who's like the hardest player that like every year you're like, yeah, I gotta be ready for this guy. Like
Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson. because you know, I always say like Allen was that he was like that white boy player in high school that played balls hard, like sweating on you playing. But he was the talent. You know, it was the talent. You know what I mean? So you know, he's playing 150 miles an hour the whole time. Like, so you're going to go from him getting a steal here to him saving the ball, jumping 4 rows into the what's the name? Somehow he got out of that and made a layup. Yeah. Like, wait, what? Like, you know what I mean? That was his hustle. Like, you know, if you know, a ball got knocked loose and you like jogging, I was about to go out of bounds, he sprint to it, die. Like, he was one of those guys. So when you played against Allen, it was one of those things that he is the Red Bull. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, you know, trying to stop him from scoring was a whole issue on itself. Yeah. Because, you know, green light, you know, he had no conscience. He's trying to score 50, 60. Yeah. But it's matching his energy was what people didn't understand. You got to match his energy to even compete with the 60. Right. You know what I mean? So it's one of those guys, you got to pick him up, you know, 64 feet. You got to do all that. It's like, it's because, you know, like on offense, you got to try to get him time when you don't have the ball because you don't want him to rest because he's doing the same thing. Like it was just, you know, it was like you'd rather guard, to be honest, you'd rather guard Kobe. Really? Than Allen. Why? Because with Kobe, he's going to go to his spots. You know, it's going to, I'm walking down, come on. Woo, woo, woo. Yeah. You already know you know what's coming. You're going to get someone who's trying to score 60. But there's different types of 60. Yeah. This guy he's a 60 headache. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's one of those 60 headaches where you're talking about Iverson like, being a headache. Non-stop coming. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, I know, you know, Kobe got the ball every single time, but it didn't actually feel like it. Yeah. Because it's like it went through offense. You know, went through offense, he cut, passed it, backdoor, this. Okay, he came to he looked around, he didn't like it, passed it, reposted. Okay, whoo, got some bricks. Yeah. As soon as he got the ball, he went to go try to score. If he didn't, he passed it, got it back, then tried to score. Yeah. If he didn't like that, he got it, then tried to score. Yeah. It's like, God, like you. Yeah. So you're sitting here like, suck me real quick. Yeah. and don't have on number 3. Yeah. If you had on number 3, he took it personal.
All right, so that's Gilbert speaking about his firsthand experience playing against the great Allen Iverson, AI, as he's known affectionately as. All right? People like Skip Bayless, every time they get a chance, try to kick dirt on Allen Iverson's game. But I believe Skip Bayless is just jealous because they're the same size. And he fantasized, I'm talking about Skip Bayless, of being a professional basketball player. He always tells the story about how he didn't get a chance to crack the starting lineup because the guy ahead of him was the coach's son. And I understand that. I've known guys that have been through that. So I understand, Skip. But don't take out your frustration on a guy the same size as you who dominated the NBA for years. Won an MVP, dragged his YMCA team 76ers to the finals against the Lakers. Of course, they only won one game, but it If it wasn't for AI, they wouldn't have won that one game. That's how dominant that Lakers squad was at the time, and they just could not match up. He had an aging, probably 36-year-old Dikembe Mutombo at the time. Couldn't do nothing with Shaq. Couldn't do nothing with him. Like I said, he had Aaron McKee, Eric Snow, Raja Bell, Todd McCullough, all these guys that couldn't score the ball. George Lynch. All of these guys, they couldn't score the ball. They were great role players. Otherwise, they wouldn't have went to the finals. They were great role players, but they were defensive role players when the scores were low. And this is what I mean by the late 90s, early 2000s was hard to watch. You had to be a basketball purist, but there was, like I said, there was a whole lot of bricks being thrown up at the time. You know what I mean? And AI had to take 25, 30 shots a game for that Philadelphia team to even have a chance at winning. So I kicked this small men, big game segment off with Gilbert Arenas speaking about the prowess of Allen Iverson. I want to show you other small men who were great. I'm going to just briefly run through some highlights here, just so you who I'm talking about. He was one of the most fun players I enjoyed watching, was the great Kevin Johnson. Let me see if I can find a highlight reel of him. See, not many videos even pop up with this guy because he's not advertised. He's not spoken about on all of these mainstream sports shows. They just seem to ignore certain players, especially if they didn't win a championship. And that's the case with Kevin Johnson, but he used to bust dudes' asses. He used to bust teams' asses, okay?
I didn't order pizza.
Bear with me with these ads. I'll try to get this straightened out before tomorrow's live, okay, guys?
Everyone's surprisingly great rates. You're the man. You want the real deal? Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
This is KJ. I remember that fade that he kept for years with the waves on top. That was when he dunked on John Hot Rod Williams, who was 6'11". That was him dunking on Tom Chambers, it looked like there. I also remember him dunking on Hakeem Olajuwon, a crazy facial. Like Marv Albert used to say, KJ with the facial! KJ was only 6'1", but he had long arms, he was very explosive. He had a great vertical, and he was a knockdown mid-range shooter and free throw shooter. Great driver of the basket. Averaged 22 and 10 for about a 4-year stretch, 4 years in a row. He averaged 22 points and 10 assists. Some of this footage is not so great, folks. You guys can look up Kevin Johnson's highlights on your own and get a better, clearer picture. This is just for clarity of who I'm speaking on. Let's see if I can catch that dunk on Olajuwon in this footage. Great ball handler, one of the greatest ball handlers to ever play the game. Magic wouldn't even guard him. They used to put somebody else, Byron Scott, Cooper, anybody else, to save Magic from getting his ankles broken and getting in foul trouble.
It hasn't been so far for either team in this series.
Here it goes, folks. That was on the great Hakeem Olajuwon, the all-time leader in blocks, because they didn't count blocks in Bill Russell and Will Chamberlain's era. Look at this. Holy smokes. Olajuwon wasn't expecting that. That's what it was. He said, no, this little guy's not about to dunk on me. Yes, he is. The great Kevin Johnson of the Phoenix Suns. Now I'm going to show you the great Isaiah Thomas, two-time NBA champion, went to 3 straight finals with the Detroit Pistons. One of the greatest point guards to ever play the game. I have him second or third on my all-time greatest point guard list. He doesn't have the stats of John Stockton. He doesn't have the shooting, long-range shooting prowess of Steph Curry, but Isaiah Thomas was just a dog and a winner, a very good defender. And like I said, Isaiah Thomas toned his game down to make the Pistons better all around, because he was averaging about 28 points a game, but they were losing. And then, the coach came to him and said, hey, would you mind sacrificing some of your offense to get these guys involved so that we can win a championship? And Isaiah Thomas sacrificed his game. Let me get through these commercials, folks. Bear with me. Please like, share, subscribe. If you're coming in, I appreciate it. This is the great Isaiah Thomas, two-time NBA champion, multiple All-Star, probably 8 or 9-time All-Star, one of the toughest guys to ever play this game. Let me turn down this music, folks. I'm sorry. I know my mic is there. It's a little loud. Look at that. How he used to be able to get up back in the day. Put back dunk over the bigs. Isaiah Thomas had one of the greatest playoff performances I had ever seen to that point, when I believe he scored like 25 in the fourth quarter with one leg. His ankle was busted. Tough as nails, would fight anybody, didn't take no crap. One of the greatest winners ever. I mean, a guy that can play with Bobby Knight in Indiana with no problems, you know he's a tough guy. Bobby Knight raves about Isaiah Thomas, where Bobby Knight used to cuss out his players on a regular basis. But not Isaiah, because he know Isaiah might have hooked off on him. That's the truth of the matter. Chicago, Isaiah Thomas from a dirt poor Chicago neighborhood, something like 11 brothers and sisters, and he was the youngest, also known as affectionately as Zeke. One of the greatest ball handlers ever, one of the greatest mid-range shots, one of the greatest passers, a very underrated defender, very good on defense. And like I said, fearless, didn't back down from anyone. And he was really probably the 3rd or 4th best player of his era, and he was only 6'1". Everybody else was 6'6" and better. That was superstars at that time. Michael Jordan, the Big Three in Boston, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Magic Johnson, James Worthy, Julius Erving, all these guys were 6-7 inches bigger than Isaiah Thomas. But he was one small man with a big game. He played in a very structured offense. So he doesn't have the freedom Steph Curry has, you know, or Gilbert Arenas had, or Iverson had, to just go out and score. Because if he did, he would average somewhere between 28 and 30 points a game. That's how good he was. Other than Magic Johnson, if I truly had to pick a point guard for my squad, even though I have Steph Curry right there, neck and neck because of his shooting and scoring prowess, and the way that Steph Curry plays the team in a team concept, I still would have to go with Isaiah Thomas as my second point guard behind Magic Johnson. But that crossover, folks. Woo! So that's the great Isaiah Thomas. Let's go back, because a lot of you guys, you know, speak about players from the 60s, 50s, and 70s. Let's go back. I know the footage is not going to be that great, but I want to pay homage to multiple eras. You know, they weren't just good players in the 80s and 90s and 2000s. They were great players before then. This is highlights of the Boston Celtic legend and great Bob Cousy. He's also a native New Yorker, so I'm biased toward him for being a New Yorker. Even though he played for the Celtics, you know, he's still New York. Even when you hear him talk, you can hear the New York in him. So I have to pay homage to the great Bob Cousy. For guys like Leo, who checked in earlier, you know, I gotta, you know, Leo's always representing to me that 60s era. So here you go.
Literally 12 years to save $500 and get us out of that ghetto and out to Long Island where it was a little fresh air. St. Albans, where every kid in town simply wanted to play basketball for the local high school. I momentarily went out for baseball and just lost interest because my having to go to baseball practice interrupted my going to the schoolyard to play 3-on-3. That's it. I gave that up exclusively.
Hi there.
It's not a long video, folks. Isaiah Thomas and Bob Cousy's game was very similar. Magic Johnson probably took a few cues from Bob Cousy as well. Even though Magic was much bigger, Bob Cousy was only listed at about 6'1". But Bob Cousy was a winner, leading that Celtics team, those late 50s and 60s Celtics teams, to many championships, along with the great Bill Russell, John Havlicek, Sam Jones, Casey Jones, Tommy Heinsohn, so on and so forth. Yeah, I know a little Boston Celtic history. Can't stand them, though. But I respect them. They were the greatest team in NBA history as far as a franchise, up until the Lakers started catching fire. And then the Lakers became the greatest franchise to me. But if you want to say the Boston Celtics is still the signature franchise of the NBA, much like the New York Yankees are the signature franchise of Major League Baseball, I wouldn't argue with you. They have the championships and the dominance to make their case. Especially against the Lakers of the 70s and late 60s who managed to only win one chip over them. And that was when the Lakers acquired Wilt Chamberlain to go along with Jerry West and a couple other Celtics great players at that time. Now, I must say this. Bob Cousy's not saying this, but it looks like to me he watched a lot of Harlem Globetrotter games. Because he was the precursor to even Pistol Pete Maravich as far as ball handling wizardry, making all type of passes. Would Bob Cousy be great today? Absolutely. Absolutely. I definitely see his game translating to the modern era. He would have better workouts, better nutrition, more film to study, learn new moves, and of course his shoes would be better. That's the great Bob Cousy. I just want to highlight some great young players. I'm going to try to go through every era. Let's take it to the 70s. The great Calvin Murphy. This clears up here, hopefully. Okay. Once again, I don't expect great footage here, but let's see what we get. That's Calvin Murphy with the short fro. That's him in a Houston Rocket jersey, I believe. He's not talked about nearly enough. My uncle and my father educated me on Calvin Murphy. They're the ones who first told me how great he was. I don't have his stats in front of me, guys, but you can look that up. You can Google his career stats yourself. I know Calvin Murphy's in the Hall of Fame, and I believe he was part of that 50 greatest team. I'm not sure about that, but I believe he was there. He looked to be way quicker and faster than everybody else. He was obviously a scorer. A good passer, or great passer, excuse me. Reminds me kind of like Isaiah Thomas. That's Calvin Murphy. Who else can I highlight here that's not really talked about in other shows and not really talked about on other YouTube channels? There was a commenter, there was somebody, a viewer who commented about this guy here. Yeah, I found a short video for this guy, Muggsy Bogues. Small men with a big game. Sorry, folks. I hope this clears up for you guys. Focus is in better. But Muggsy Bogues was like a blur. He was a pest on defense. I think at one season he averaged over 3 steals a game. And getting 3 steals a game is basically equivalent to getting 5 blocks because it's so hard to do at this level, at the NBA level. He led his Charlotte Hornets teams to multiple playoff appearances. He was part of what many consider the greatest high school basketball team ever down in Baltimore, Maryland. You know how good you have to be 5'3" and make it to the NBA? He has a special place in my heart because when I took my 2 sons to NBA All-Star Weekend when it was at Madison Square Garden, he was giving dribbling drills to the kids, and he was so personable. He was so fun for the kids, and both of my sons at the time were only like 12, 13 years old, and they both towered over multi folks at the time. So he really was. I saw him in person, up and close. He really was 5'3", but had the heart of a lion. That's Muggsy Bogues. Let me go to my trusty notebook, folks, and see what else I got coming down the pipe here. Let's go to this guy here. He's not talked about enough or mentioned enough. Just give me a couple minutes. Give me a couple minutes. My father is the first one who tried to put me on about, well, my father and my Uncle Guy. My Uncle Guy, rest in peace, passed away last year. But he was one of the first ones to pull my coat and tell me how great Tiny Archibald was. And my father actually played against him in high school. My father was a really good high school basketball player who went to DeWitt Clinton in the Bronx. At that time was really known for putting out great high school basketball teams. So to make that team in the first place, you had to be very good in the 70s going to DeWitt Clinton High School in the Bronx.
A blast of immune support. That's more than just...
The great Nate Tiny Archibald, who was listed at about 5'9". So you know if he was listed at 5'9", he probably was closer to 5'7", 5'8". One of the few players to ever lead the league in scoring and assists in the same season. That's how I let you know how good he was. If you talk to guys from New York, old school guys who are 60 and older, they will rave about how great Tiny Archibald was. Not the greatest footage. That's the problem with trying to big up players from older eras. But you can see the talent even through grainy footage. Huh? Excuse me, folks. I was talking to my wife. He could do everything a point guard needed to do if he led the league in scoring and assists in the same season. 5'9". Small man with a big game. Excuse me for the illicit language, the explicit language in the music. I never saw this footage until now, so we watching it together. So that's the great Nate Tiny Archibald. Right, and I could go on and on and on and show you guys footage of all the small great players. But I just wanted to make a video about and highlight the great small men of all time. I'm going to come back because I have a bonus topic that I want to speak on, but I'm going to end this live right now. To be quite honest, it's dinner time. So I'm going to end this right now, but I will be back shortly because I have a bonus topic that I want to come back live and speak on. All right, I just recently posted another e-bike video earlier today. Check that out if you're into bicycles, especially e-bikes. And yeah, as always, like, share, subscribe. Feel free to get in the comment section, man, and talk about the subject I spoke on. I spoke on Michael Jordan versus LeBron James in the GOAT debate, how Gilbert Arenas spoke his piece, highlighting how he felt LeBron was better than Michael Jordan. I spoke about old head or NBA legend players being delusional, legends of the past, 80s, 90s, 70s, 80s, and 90s being delusional about the level of talent that's in the modern era right now, compared to the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. I spoke about little men, big game, and I highlighted Allen Iverson. I spoke about Isaiah Thomas. I showed footage of the great Isaiah Thomas of the Pistons fame, the great Kevin Johnson of Phoenix Suns fame, Tiny Archibald, Calvin Murphy, Muggsy Bogues. I can't get to all the small guys, otherwise this will be a 5-hour live, right? But if you want to rewind it, I read off my list of great small players with big games. Once again, Kevin Johnson, Tony Parker, Tim Hardaway, Allen Iverson, Bob Cousy, Kemba Walker, Muggsy Bogues, Mark Price, Stephen Marbury, John Morant, Jerry West, Calvin Murphy, Donovan Mitchell, Spud Webb, Tiny Archibald, Mo Cheeks, Chris Paul, Nate Robinson, and the other Isaiah Thomas of this era, right? I'm going to come back with probably 2 bonus topics, right? That'll be a way shorter live than this, but right now, like I said, it's dinner time. I'll see you guys soon. Please like, share, subscribe. Thank you for tuning in, Leo DeRosa and Joshua Green. I appreciate you guys as always. Grant Roller out. Peace.